Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bending the Narrative here on the Aspect Network. I'm one of your hosts, Kate Kronquist, and joining me every week to discuss the latest and greatest in the world of Avatar is Alex Betts. Alex, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Very excited for this episode. So today
Mhm.
we're experimenting with the Mechanist with the episode The Northern Air Temple.
But before we jump into this week's episode, we actually have some news we'd like to share with the audience. As we rapidly approach the season one finale, we wanted to let everyone know that Bending the Narrative will be going on a hiatus for a couple of months before we return in the fall for season two. While we will miss covering the series every week, we are excited about the updates that will be coming to the show for our second season. And we have a ton of great content here on the Aspect Network for you to check out in the meantime. But Alex, we still do have a few weeks left here of chatting about Avatar. So let's start this week and take a look at the Avatar world map and track Team Avatar's journey.
Yeah, so again,
We're there.
like we said last week, we're making some progress again.
Progress!
We're going north, we're going more east this time than we did last week, but still they're still on that upward trajectory, which is really good. We're actually like
Mhm. We're
super
right
close to
there.
the Northern Water Tribe now. Yeah, we're right next to it. So we're at the Northern Air Temple, which is wild, complete opposite side of the map from where we started at the beginning of the season.
Mhm.
Very nice to see. Um, this is cool. I like seeing the Northern Air Temple. Like the Air Temple designs are just always like,
They're so cool.
yeah, they're so
I
rad.
love
So
that they're
like,
always all the way up there in the mountains. I like in the drawing too on our map, we do see it's like on the tippy top of this mountain surrounded by clouds.
hmm
It's supposed to be like, I guess, like an Everest type.
yeah, you can tell. Yeah, you can tell that it is much higher than the mountains surrounding it, which like is just sick.
Yeah.
Like it's rad. The Northern Air Temples are a great idea, great concept. So yeah, I mean, they've made progress. They're actually, I feel like in the last 2 weeks they've covered like the
The
same
most
amount of
ground we
yeah, the same amount of
have.
ground as
Like,
like the like entire like middle 10 episodes of the season,
yeah.
like instead
Middle
of
10
just like
episodes, we really just got stuck jumping from like a couple feet
little
to a couple
town
feet.
like
Yeah.
villages to like village or like just in the forest area for a little bit. But yeah,
Yeah.
they I mean, I guess it's because from the Firetown village that they were at last week to here, they're like basically just over water. So like
Yeah.
they didn't really have any options for stopping, which also like that's a long flight for Appa. That dude,
Yeah.
he's
But
got
I
some
think the
stamina.
next flight he takes is longer. So I think this map is a little bit skewed because they say from the Northern Air Temple to the Northern Water Tribe, they're flying for like 2 days straight.
That's wild. Bro
So
can just go. Can you imagine
bro
being
could
on a
just
2 day?
go.
Can you imagine being on a 2 day flight?
No.
Now
I
imagine
think
that
the
being a
most I've
like
ever been was
a person doing that.
a person doing it
like
on
a
somebody's
living
back,
like a living
like a
creature just
horse,
flying.
like riding on a horse for 2 days straight. It would
N-
collapse, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's got to.
You
I've
got
never ridden a
to.
horse for 2 days, but I can
I don't.
imagine.
I haven't
I
ridden
always
one
try
for
to.
more than like 20 minutes. I think.
Yeah, but I mean that's wild. He's got some stamina. He's
Appa
going.
Appa's the undersung. They would get nowhere without Appa.
No,
We do see that
Ab-
in season two, how important he is and how hard it is to do this show without him.
yeah, he's like arguably the biggest narrative conceit of this entire show is
Literally
Appa's
and figuratively, the backbone.
yeah, is
But
his transportation.
yeah.
um so yeah, diving into this episode 16 is directed by Dave Filoni and written by Elizabeth Welch Haas. And if you're just joining us, we will be discussing the show in its totality. So again, be warned about spoilers. As always, odd jumping on point. Glad to have you though, if this is your first one. Um, so yeah, this episode opens with the gang around a campfire as someone tells a campfire story, which I think it's super interesting that
I
this
do love
episode
this.
opens with them around other people. We like never get that really. Like it always,
You're so right. It's always them on their own and then stumbling upon other people. This is we're
yeah,
in the
like
middle of them
just being
already
around
with
a
people.
campfire. It's such an odd thing, and like it makes sense to like kickstart this story because he's telling a story of these airwalkers that are like flying
Mhm.
people, and they assume that he's speaking about legends of airbenders. And I love the little bit where like Aang is like, "Oh, these are great," and Katara's like, "Is this really how it is?" And Aang's like, "Oh yeah, I laugh at gravity all the time," and he's like, "Gravity, ha 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 ha,"
He's like
which is just
stupid
like,
gravity.
it's
It's
such a
so
dumb,
good.
funny joke. Like, it's great. Um,
I love the dumb jokes in this show. They're good.
yeah, and so they talk about it, and then the guy mentions that he saw the Airwalkers last week, and so they're like, "Well, obviously we need to investigate this," because Aang's like, "There's no way."
Yeah.
So they go and they fly to the Northern Air Temple, which, as we were just talking about, looks amazing. Such cool design.
Such
Um,
beautiful design.
Aang is like hopeful to possibly see airbenders, and they see people flying around, but Aang immediately is
Hmm.
like, "Those aren't airbenders." He's like,
He's like, they
"Frauds."
don't have the spirit.
Yeah,
Frauds.
he's just immediately like, "Nope, they're faking, not real." And he's like, "They're gliding, not flying." And so then
Mhm.
Aang starts like showing off like beside one of the kids who's gliding around, and like is just very bitterly like, "I can do all this better than you. Like, you suck." I'm
He's such a child here.
yeah, he's such a kid where he's just like, he's so angry doing it the whole time too. Like, he's just grumpy and like, "Oh yeah, but watch this."
He's like, yeah,
Um
but I can do this. So,
yeah,
and I
so
love
like,
it
you
that the
suck
kid we
actually.
learn his name is Teo. He's like, oh, cool. I can also do that.
Yeah, like
Like
the kid
not
is so
feeding
like,
into Aang's anger.
yeah, like he's just also like hyped and is like, "Oh, sick! Like, this is fun. Where I like have a buddy that I'm
Yeah.
now like doing tricks with and stuff." And Aang is just like, "This is stupid. I'm gonna." And he's just,
Yeah.
it's just, he's
So
so
mad.
mad. And then Teo draws Aang's face in the sky with smoke, which is
I
hilarious.
love it. And it's his exact reaction.
Yeah, like you see his face, and then it
Great
cuts to
bit.
Aang's face, and it's the same face. It's fantastic. The visual comedy in the show is honestly just unmatched.
It's
Like, it's
so
so
good.
good.
Great bits, no comments needed.
There was
They're
also the
perfect.
bit
10 out of 10.
prior to this when they're still at the campfire and like they don't have any money for the storyteller, and he like
Huh.
drops one of the coins and Momo picks it up and like hands it to, like, puts it in the hat, and the dude is
Yeah, and
like,
the
"Oh,
guy's
thanks
like,
so much."
he's like, what a reformed gentleman or something.
He's like, "Thanks."
Something
He's
that
like, "Thanks so much, bat creature."
bat creature. That was he calls him a little
which
bat
is
creature.
which is so good.
So
So
cute.
yeah, like at the air temple, they all like land and stuff, and that's when we meet Teo, and he's in a wheelchair, which is so cool that he's like
Yeah.
in a wheelchair and flying around and doing all this stuff. Like, honestly, very like great rep for a show that was like
I
mid
know.
2000s. Like, that's good on them for that one.
Good on them. Yeah.
Like that's great to see. Um, so we get that. He's super excited to meet an airbender, and he's like, "Oh, you're actually an airbender," and then he's like, "Oh, well, you must be the Avatar," because like, obviously, which
Obviously,
always
that's if there's one, that's him.
I always think it's so funny how readily he's willing to
Everybody just
just like,
accept that.
well, that, but like how um open Aang is to just like exposing himself constantly as being the Avatar. Like, you would
Yeah.
think that they would want to keep that a little bit more close to the chest
Hmm.
at times, but he just like doesn't. And I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense if they're like they're at the
At
Northern
this
Air
point,
Temple. So
yeah.
like, if there's going to be airbenders left, they would be here. So he'd
Because
want to,
we see it in
treat
like
them or
one of
whatever.
the earlier, it's like one of the first or second episodes when they're like, "Are you the Avatar?" And he looks to Katara and he's like, "Should I tell
Yeah,
them?"
yeah,
And
and
she's
she's
like,
like, "Yeah, you can
"Yeah,
do it." Yeah,
yeah."
which is great. But yeah,
And now
it
he's
always just
like,
makes
"I
me
could tell
laugh where
people.
he's just like, yeah, like just immediately he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm the Avatar." And it's like, "All right, man.
Like I
Well,
can
like
trust
the
these
whole
people." Yeah.
you got like the bad guys in this world hunting you, but sure."
But sure, let's just
uh,
tell everybody you're here.
so we learned that Taylor's dad is the one who has designed everything. When we should note here, his dad does not get a name in this.
Yes, at all.
He's like not
He's
named. He's not.
referred to in documents as the Mechanist. Like online,
Yeah.
he's referred to as the Mechanist, though in the show.
Yeah, so his dad is the one who's designed everything here. Teo takes them inside the temple, and I really, the like shot of them going inside the temple and the way everything is animated is like so impressive and also so heartbreaking. And the show does a
Yes.
really good job of showcasing both of those sides of it, because like it is super impressive to see, and you're like, wow, because it's this huge, like it's
Hmm.
all like steam and air powered and like this industrial,
It's all
just giant,
intact, but
yeah, like it's crazy,
mhm.
but then it's also like destroying what the temple was. And like, I you can see it on Aang's face, the way the shots are framed, you really get that feeling. And then you also have the lines from Aang being like, "This is supposed to be the history of my people." And
Oh,
like, you
that
have the
broke my
pipe.
heart.
It's so
Hmm.
sad. It's so sad. And you see it as like the pipes are like going through the faces of the
Hmm.
different monks, and it's like, oh man, like it's so sad. And
Like
so
that's
like the
ancient, like that's an ancient relic at this point, and
yeah. And
we've
like it
destroyed it.
really this episode, the like big thing, the big theme going through this one is like
Mhm.
industrialization and how that will take over the natural world and like
Yeah.
how progress there works.
And
And
like
I
the pros
like,
and cons of it. And
yeah. And it like we'll get more into it whenever Teo's dad starts talking about some of his points.
mhm.
But so we see that we go to a part of the temple that is untouched until a wrecking ball busts through it. Aang is obviously angry about it, which like he should be. And they're like, they're destroying it for a bathhouse.
Mhm.
And it brings up the like theme of change. And this, I believe it's in this scene whenever Teo's father is like um, talking about how, you know, the industrialization and how they're changing things. And Aang's like, well, nature knows when to stop. And he's
Yeah.
like, yeah, but that's not how progress works. Like it just keeps going.
It
And
just
like
keeps going.
there's such a great contrast
Mhm.
in this episode of showing that and like that theme there and like which is better if there's a better or like kind of just like how that will impact the world around it and like the people having to like adapt to that um which is a super interesting thing for again a like kids show in the mid 2000s to be
Yeah, in
doing
mid
like
2000s. And this
it's
is a big
honestly a
thing like we
very
see in the world constantly too. Like it's always been reflected in the news and everything of
yeah
people taking these ancient sites and building
a shopping
condos
mall or like
and a
yeah
shopping mall. Yeah.
yeah
They paved
um
paradise and put up a parking lot. Like
yeah. And so he explains that they were refugees from the war. They were lost. They lost Teo's mother, and they found this place and it
Mhm.
was empty. And so he found airbender gliders and wanted to build a new life for his son. And he says that his dad was improving on what was already there, and that is what nature does. And that's when Aang disagrees and says nature
Mhm.
knows when to stop. And so that's when
That's
they have that like back and forth. The guy points to the candles and tells the time, which is hilarious that they
I love
have the
this little
like
bit. Yeah.
he's like Sokka's like, how could you tell the time? And then he like had firecracker pops in it that will like pop and say the time apparently. And I'm like, this still doesn't even really like you can't just look at it and know that like you'll just at a
You have to
certain
wait
point
to
in
hear
time
that. Yeah.
you'll be alerted to what time it is, which is funny.
I was like, can't you use a
Um,
sundial? Whatever. He's the
right.
mechanist. He's the smart one.
Yeah, and Aang is upset that nothing is the same, but Teo points out that the creatures that live there are direct descendants of the ones that used to live there. So, which is a
Which is
nice like,
so cute.
yeah, it's
I
a
love how positive Teo is
yeah,
as a
he's like
character.
completely unfailingly like always trying to look on the bright side of things, like
Yeah.
which is good. Um, so then they
It's
also
a
have a
great comparison with Aang. Sorry. I was just thinking
no,
about like Aang is supposed to be that, but like really like Teo
but
is
he's
really
like
truly that.
yeah,
Yeah.
Aang definitely lets his emotions get the better of him in a lot of those instances, and it seems like
Yeah.
Teo, even though like like Teo's like lost his mother and like is a refugee from war and like is in a
Hmm.
wheelchair and stuff, he's like no, still stuff's still good, like
Yeah.
chilling.
He's so good.
So there's a door that only Aang can open, because it's the
Hmm.
same as one we saw
The
in the
ones that we
Southern Air
saw
Temple.
earlier.
Yeah, where like he has to airbend through it to like open it appropriately. So they don't get in there, but that'll come into play later. Just you wait. And so
Chekhov's gun.
yeah, so Teo's dad shows Sokka some more inventions. We get firefly lanterns that are non-flammable, because there's a room with natural gas and fire will blow it up. Um, and they say they need to find out a way if there's a gas leak. So that's also something that'll come into play.
Hmm.
Um, Teo's explaining how to glide to Katara. She does end up start gliding after being super scared of like attempting it. She's like,
She's so
nah, I
cute.
think I'm
Oh.
good. She's like, I think I'm good actually. Like that's fine. I love how they mentioned to like make sure she closes her mouth so that bugs don't fly into it. And then we get the visual bit of Momo flying and like opening his mouth so that he could eat some bugs,
Eat all the
which is
bugs. I
which is
love
great.
Momo bits. They're so good.
So we get them flying, and this eventually changes Aang's mind to show him what's in the room.
Mhm.
And so we cut back to Teo's dad and Sokka. They're like talking about the inventions and figuring out the inventions,
Which I kind of
and
do.
they
I love
figure
this
out
relationship too of
it's
Sokka and
so
this
good.
guy. Like kind of as a like not a replacement father, but it kind of has
Feels
that
like
vibe to
this.
it. You know what I
They
mean?
just
Like
they have the same, yeah, they have that feeling and relationship, and it's very also
mhm.
like it does a good job of showing Sokka's ingenuity and that he
Ah,
does
yes, he's
think
so
in that
smart.
way.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like I love how they consistently through the episode like call it. They're like, "Oh, good job!" Like thank you, and like calling each
Yeah,
other
yeah. They're
geniuses
like,
like
oh,
the whole
I know,
time.
genius, fellow genius.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they find an old egg and it cracked and it smells horrible. And so this is when they realize that like a stinky egg is the solution. If the rotten eggs
Hmm.
are in the cellar, the gas will mix with that, and then if they smell the rotten egg, they know they can smell a leak.
Which
Um,
genius. Love it.
yeah, so smart. I also love how it's just like, well, they're figuring out like methane gas essentially,
Methane
like
gas.
it's the,
Yeah. Like,
which is hilarious.
dude, what's it?
They
There's
fi-
another show that does that where they're, it's an anime. It's called The Apothecary Diaries. And the
okay.
way this girl, it's like ancient China, and the way she
Mhm.
figures out these crimes and solves these mysteries is through like modern things. Like she makes chocolate, she makes a brownie, and people are like, "What is this amazing thing?" And I
It's
crack
just
up.
like
I'm like, "Oh, the recipe is just a brownie or like a chocolate chip cookie."
that's honestly such a funny thing to
I
do.
love
Like,
those little bits and shows. It's cute.
so yeah, they do that. They figure out methane gas essentially. And then Aang and Teo are back at the door, and Aang uses airbending to open it. Which again, this is the first time in the episode, I believe, that we get some of the 3D animation mixed in with the 2D because you
Mm,
have like the
hmm.
airbender door like moving and stuff. And like we'll get to it later, but there's a lot of 3D animation mixed in with this episode. Like
Hmm.
a crazy amount, honestly. Which like it looks good, but it's also sort of jarring. Like it's just
It does
it's
stick
very
out, but I'll let him have it.
like it's good animation. It just is obviously different than the rest of the show. Like you
Hmm.
can very clearly be like, oh, that's the 3D animated
That's the
thing.
thing that's gonna move in
Yeah,
this
like and
scene. Yeah.
it sticks out even more than like because you can see that just generally in the 2D animation when it's like a couple weeks ago whenever they were the volcano thing and like Momo was helping dig the trench, like you had the
Oh
one rock
yes,
that was
yeah,
like obviously gonna move, but like that even
yeah.
still looks different than like the whole 3D like
The whole
thing.
3D tank that
Yeah,
moves
like
later that we'll
the like
see.
flips and moves, which also I have a point for those whenever we get to them soon. But so we go back to them opening the door, and Aang opens it, and inside it is filled to the brim with Fire Nation weapons and contraptions, and a giant weather balloon with a Fire Nation symbol. And Teo's dad catches up to them, and Aang is like, "You're making weapons for the Fire Nation." Dun dun
Insane. I
dun.
remember this plot twist as a kid, and I was like, "Oh my god!" Like that was the craziest
Oh,
thing you could see on TV.
it's wild. And so obviously they all get very mad. And Teo's dad explains that Fire Nation soldiers had found them, and to save himself and his son, he offered up his skills. And Aang is like, you can't give them what they want. And he's like, well, they'll destroy everything if he doesn't. And Teo says, how can I be proud of you if your inventions are being used for murder?
Oh,
Which is like,
oh,
oh,
I thought it was
I
funny
didn't
because I
know.
made a point where I was like, "This is like kids with parents who work at Lockheed Martin or something."
Yeah, I know someone who works at Lockheed Martin. And I'm just like,
Oh,
but like,
you're like, "All right in your Lamborghini, though."
yeah, it's rough. It's some rough stuff, and it, like again, it's just a really interesting. Like, it's a very nuanced thing to again put in a kids
Yeah,
cartoon. Like he's having to make tough decisions. He's looking out
yeah,
for his
and he has
family.
to keep them alive. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and so the kids all hide when the Fire Nation soldier arrives to collect the weapons, and then Aang comes out and is like, nah, like you're not getting this stuff. And
Mm-mm,
like
veg.
goes
Think
up to him
again.
and he like lets the Fire Nation guy leave, which I mean, I guess, yeah, it's not like he's gonna kill him or capture him. So like that's really the only
Yeah,
like
true. I was thinking about. I was like, he just goes. He's gonna. What if you could have captured him so he didn't? But I guess if he didn't return, they would have been like, "Oh, our guy didn't
uh,
return." I don't know.
I do love how like whenever he goes back down through the trapdoor, Aang like uses airbending to like emphatically close the door
Slam it
after him.
shut.
I'm like, all right, just the most drama. Um,
So
and
dramatic.
so the guy says the Fire Nation will come back and destroy the temple, and so the gang then has to make a plan to fight them off. They can use sky power to fight them, and they can win. Um, Sokka helps to get the air balloon to work. He has an idea to put the lid on the top to control the hot air in and out, which is cool.
I
So
love
they
that there's a
use
little joke here Qatar makes. She's like, "Wow, yeah, how do we get a lid on hot air?" Like about Sokka. It's so good.
yeah, and so they use smoke, slime, fire, and stink bombs, and then the rest of the episode, for the most part, is basically just a straight up siege, like against the
Yeah,
Northern Air Temple. Like it's like a solid like 8 to 10 minutes. That's just like
it
a battle
is.
sequence. Like it's straight
I,
up. It's
And
cool.
it's like good. It's
Yeah,
very I was like,
it's
this is a good battle sequence. Like this is
it's
awesome. I feel like this is straight out of a war movie.
yeah, it's got the thing where like I can't remember where I originally like heard this quote or saw people talking about it, but it's the thing where like in battle sequences or sieges or whatever, and when you're depicting them in fiction, and like it happened in obviously like Real War II and like medieval times, but like having the stages of the battle sequence, like that's how you create drama
Mm,
in there. Like it can't just be like one, like they just clash. Like there you have
yeah.
like the initial thing and then like a counterattack and then like a count and like breaking it up into those stages to create the tension and the drama throughout. And like
Oh.
they do that here. Like you get the different
Yeah.
like they do this and then like they like retaliate with this and then so now they like have to
Like
do
I like
this and
when all
like you
the
have the
flying
different
people they take off at the beginning and you hear all the other people on the ground like cheer for them as they help them take
Mhm.
off, and it's very reminiscent of like the planes on those boats taking off.
Yeah,
What are those called? I don't even. I'm not a
military
history
expert.
war person, but
Yeah.
whatever those are
No,
called.
but like
Yeah,
they go through the various like stages in battle, and that's what keeps
hmm
it like engaging and interesting. And you're like, oh, okay, and like you get to see the back and forth there, and
like
like
kind of like grounded in
obviously
reality almost.
the gang is gonna win, but like it still
Yeah.
like does a good job of like giving you the different phases there and really like keeping you engaged. What I was gonna point out with the Fire Nation tanks, two things actually, because I remember my other funny thing. They just straight up are a bunch of Batmobiles. like they,
Oh
I
my
can't
god.
I can't not think of the because they literally whenever they pull up, they have a grappling hook thing that they shoot against the side of the cliff, and then they just like hit the edge of the wall and they drive up, and it's literally just exactly what the Batmobile and Batman Forever does.
And
Like
listener, if you
it's
don't know this, Alex is a Batman fanatic and knows anything and everything
yeah.
about Batman.
So it's just like
So we got
I
to put that
couldn't
in there.
not think about that the whole time. I was like, oh, they just watched Batman Forever, and that's what. Which I
And they
like.
put
I'm
that
sure
in.
Batman. It's probably not the
I'm
first thing
sure
or
they
only
like,
thing to do
yeah.
that, but like, it's so good. So there's just
And
a
I
bunch
do
of
like the scenes
Batmobiles.
too where it like falls, where they get it to fall and then it shoots another one up
Yeah,
to
and
stay
like
up. Those things are sick. That's
so
cool.
like yeah, all the Fire Nation Batmobiles are 3D animated, which is one of the other like major components that's 3D. They're not tanks, they're Batmobiles.
The
um,
Batmobiles. We're gonna
and
call them that from now on. The Batmobiles.
but then I also notice because there's a sequence in one of the battle phases where like they start flipping the Batmobiles over,
Mm-hmm.
and I thought it's hilarious because like they flip them over, but then the like middle carriage part of it ends up being able to like spin completely,
Mm-hmm.
so like they're still
Which
right
is
side up.
so sick.
But it's hilarious because if you pay attention, the Fire Nation symbol that's not part of the middle part of the carriage, it's part of the front axle, is already oriented right side up after they flip over in the
Oh,
middle. And so like
hey.
it's just a small animation thing where like they
A
just
small
like
goof, yeah.
yeah, like it just was like it wasn't upside down, it was still right side up so that it would still but like I'm just like but that would have been upside down
You're
if
like,
you went
if you
like
actually spun them over.
yeah, it's just a funny thing that I know, and it's like that.
Actually.
It's like that for all of them too, because like I noticed it on the first one, and I was like, and then like they do it for the couple ones, and like
I didn't notice that.
it's already right side up by the time they like the middle carriage spins around, and I'm like, well, but
Hmm.
unless, but yeah, so it's just a funny thing, like
That is
it's not.
interesting. And that just goes to show like how easy it is to miss those super, super tiny details
Yeah, it's and like it
and
makes
how
sense because they
rare
just
it
want it
is to see. Yeah.
because like for the majority of shot they want it to be obviously right side up, so you because
Hmm.
like the Fire Nation symbol will probably look pretty dumb upside down, like
Upside down.
like
Yeah. Like you
like
won't know what
normally.
that is. Hmm.
And so like you got to have that like recognizably like right
Hmm.
side up, but it's just the funny thing where I was like, ah, it's already you did it already. Like it should be
Got
upside
you.
down. So yeah, you get the whole like battle thing. We don't really need to do it play by play, but it's a cool like
It's
thing.
a really great battle. I
It's
got really
great.
excited typing it all out in my summary of the episode. I was like, and then it goes this, and then it does this, and then this person comes in and then gets it. It's so exciting
Yeah,
watching these scenes.
there's all the different phases. The big thing though is that Sokka and the Mechanist are on the hot air
Hmm.
balloon thing and they're
They
flying
get
up
it to
there and they
work.
smell yeah, they get it to work and then they end up smelling where the gas is escaping from and Sokka uses their fuel source on the hot air balloon to like dump over the side to fall into the crevice
Which
where
I
all the
love.
gas
Sokka
has
will
been
do
leaking out.
anything to win. Sokka will risk
Yeah,
anything.
he's like,
He'll
all right. The Mechanist
crazy
is like, that's our
stuff.
fuel. He's like, well, it's all we
Well,
got. So like,
yeah.
this is what we gotta do. And so they dump it over the side, and it causes a huge explosion. It's a pretty gnarly explosion, and I also don't entirely know how the Northern Air Temple survives that.
I
But
literally was like, are they gonna bomb the
the
entire
whole thing
devil? I
while
was like, the
this
whole
guy.
thing's gonna explode. And it kind
Um,
of looked like too, like all the rocks kind I was like, how is it still staying up?
it's
Suspending
fine.
my disbelief.
It's fine.
So,
It saved the day. So they take out all of the
save the
Fire
day.
Nation soldiers who like some of them retreat, but a lot of them
Mhm.
definitely just died. Like they definitely killed like a couple hundred
I
people
did see some
there. Like
comments on this episode, and people are like, "Did they die? Did those Fire Nation
yeah,
soldiers live
they
through
just all
that?"
and like I love the way they get around that in the kids show of them being like, look, they're retreating, and you see like the couple of them like
Yes,
running away. I'm like, yeah, let's
running
ignore
away.
the
The
giant
ones that
nuke.
were
Essentially, they just like set
new.
off like all right, sure.
They're
Um,
like,
but yes, so we get that. We get Aang talking with his new friends, and he's come around, and he's now glad that there are people that are using the temple as a safe haven, which is great.
Mhm.
And then dun dun dun, we get a not upbeat note to end this episode, which is not characteristic of this show, but we
Yeah, they
get.
always end on an upbeat note. So I found it so
Mhm.
interesting. This is the first,
Yeah,
I
it's
think one of the
very.
first ones, or the first one to end.
I think this is
And
probably the first one that's like a well, aside from in the like pilot, essentially when Zuko is like that's the Avatar whenever he sees the
oh
like,
yeah. Hmm.
but like when once the gang is actually together and on their adventures, we always get that because they keep the very like singular
The very
enclosed like
last beat. Hmm.
yeah, like this is a one story within a larger story, and so like
Hmm.
they get the like beginning conflict and resolution by the end, and like we do get that here, but then we get this little added thing where it's like the Fire Nation leader finds the hot air balloon wreckage, and they're like this small like
Hmm.
loss is going to lead to a bunch of like victories, and you're like, oh shit.
Oh shit, what?
You're like,
I
that's
do love.
not.
They're like, you might have like won the battle, but like we'll win the war type of
Yeah,
thing.
type beat. Yeah, which is you're like, oh
Type
man, that's
beat.
not
Yeah.
that's not good. That's ugh.
That's
And like,
not good.
and
Like, oh,
spoiler alert,
that's
those balloons do come in pretty
Miller.
handy for them.
That's bad. That is bad that they saw that.
Yeah.
Because I think too, that's why the Mechanist, we see him, he's like sad at the end because he sees it float away.
Hmm.
And I think he knows. Like I think he knows
He's
too.
like,
He's like, oh, they're gonna find that.
he's like, I was working on that for them. Ugh.
Ooh, they
Yike.
kind of already know. And I
Yikes.
do love to like, and they do initially come down in it, and they're like, why aren't they attacking us? It's like
Oh yeah,
the
and because they're like, it's
giant
got the Fire
Fire
Nation
Nation
symbol.
symbol.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think?
Like, oh, that makes sense, I suppose. Yeah.
I
He's
hope
like, they're not
that
firing.
happens
It's like,
later.
well, they think we're one of us. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, which is a great idea. Disguises.
Yeah,
Anyways, so
that's the episode.
that's the episode. First episode to end on a bad note,
Yeah.
and that leaves us on a little bit of a cliffhanger. But we
Hmm.
will talk more about this when we get back. We are going to talk more about how the episode actually compares to the live action counterpart in the live action series. So we will be
Hmm.
right back.
Hi, I'm Alex. Enjoying the show on the Aspect Network? Then you should check out my show, Philosophy of X. Each week, I pair an X-Men character, story, or concept with a relevant philosophical topic and explore how the two relate to one another. Join me on my journey to examine the world of X-Men through philosophy. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Betting the Narrative. Each week we dive into Netflix's Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live action series. And while you can find our overall thoughts on the season in our first episode, throughout book one, we will be discussing in further detail how each episode compares to the live action version. So this episode actually gets roped into the Omashu arc in the live action series. Alex, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on how Netflix adapted this episode?
This one is weird because they do, for the most part, keep the like main points of this episode, but like it's very retrofitted to fit into the Omashu arc. Like they obviously move him from we're not at the Northern Air Temple when in the
Mm-hmm.
live action series for this. We have instead the Mechanist and Teo are in Omashu and doing stuff there, and they like blend it with the King of Omashu and then also Jet because Jet and the Freedom Fighters are roped into this and how they
Mm-hmm.
interact here. And it's I
There's a
struggle with
lot
this.
in one.
Yeah, I struggle with this one because, and I've mentioned this a couple times now on the podcast, in that I like the live action version of this episode. Like, I like that episode on its own. It's arguably my favorite of the live action ones because I think it's a good story. Like, they do well with
Mm-hmm.
all the like intrigue and like the plots and stuff and the way that things are working. and like it's entertaining and done well there. But then again, it gets weird when you start thinking about what they had to do to change that, and then some of the other things that we lose in the process, like we lose seeing the Northern Air Temple retrofitted and being
Mm-hmm.
industrialized, and like how Aang is grappling with that, and like seeing these other people in the air temple that are not airbenders, and like how that affects him. Like we don't get any of that. We don't like,
Which
so
is
we
a
lose that.
big theme that comes back. Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
so
you're
we
not
like we
getting that
lose
now.
that element of it, and then we also don't get a huge battle sequence, which is a bummer. I mean, like it makes sense that they didn't do that because like this would be super expensive to do probably,
Yeah.
but like
They were
I
like,
mean they
we can
did.
only afford one. It will be the Siege of the North.
Yeah, and like that, and then also the destruction of the air nomads at the beginning of
At the
the first
beginning, which
episode, which we should didn't need, but sure.
nobody needed that.
Um,
Yep.
but yeah, so like I get them not doing the huge siege of the Northern Air Temple and not wanting to do that. Like I understand not trying to have to deal with that from like a logistical angle, but that's a really cool battle sequence that we lost. Like it, as we were just talking about, it's done really well. It's very engaging, and it shows the ingenuity and not just of Sokka, but of everyone working together. And it's just cool to see. And so like I feel like the biggest thing that you lose by not having it the same in this episode is that location. Like there's a reason it's
Yeah,
titled the
we missed
Northern.
the whole Northern
Like
Air Temple. We don't even see. Did we get the Northern Air Temple at all? Even mentioned?
I don't think so. I know they go to one of the air temples, but I'm pretty sure it's just the Southern Air Temple because it's
Mm-hmm.
whenever he has his like freak out, and
Mm-hmm.
Katara like brings him back down. Because like I know we see that, and that's when they get I forget what they tell him about to do in the live action one in that scene, but it's something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
something.
I don't think that we see it at all in the live action, which is a bummer because like as we were saying, the air temples are so cool, and like by not having it set there, like you lose just that
A lot of
location,
world
which
building and
yeah,
lore
like
and
it's
depth
a
to the world.
yeah, like you do still, like I was saying, they keep the main, like you get the Mechanist, you get Teo, you get him building things for the Fire Nation and being exposed in that way, and then getting angry at him for it. You get the struggle and the conflict, like in the in-house drama between like Teo and his father, and like him having to do what he needed to do to survive and
Hmm.
protect his family. Like you do still get those main like character beats for him, which is nice. You have I'm blanking on the actor's name now from Community playing the Mechanist though, and he's great. Like love him. Isn't it Danny Pudi, right? Something like that. I
No, no,
think.
it is
Is
Renee.
it?
No, no, no. I'm looking at the.
It's
I am thinking of
it's
the voice
I'm
actors. I
I'm
think
also
it's.
now just like blanking on his name in Community, also his character's name.
I love him
He's
because he's great. Wait,
he's fantastic.
I'm looking this up
Um
right now because I love him.
uh
Yes,
so
Danny Pudi. Danny Pudi. Okay,
okay, cool. I was right. Yeah, but he's fantastic. Like he
so
does
cute. I
great in
love
it.
him.
Yeah, he's amazing. And so like he's awesome in the show, and his interactions with Sokka are also cool because they do keep that like
That
relationship
little
between them
relationship.
of like them really bouncing off of each other
Hmm.
well, and like both seeing things and understanding things on that like technical level, which is nice. And so like again, you get the broad strokes that you kind of like quote unquote need there, but you still
Yeah,
just like you'll lose a lot, which is just
like the majority of it was good because they basically followed it a lot. Like
yeah.
they mostly followed the original plot,
Hmm.
mostly.
But then
But they had
you
like the parts of it that were really good and that made sense and
mhm.
worked there. And I was like, that's why we liked it. That's why it was good.
Yeah, and it's
But then obviously
also
didn't hit.
and trying to and
We miss a
integrating
lot.
it
Yeah.
with the jet stuff is also just a weird like
It just takes away. And then
combination.
Jet pointing out that he's betraying, that he's working for the Fire Nation.
Yeah,
Because
and the
Jet
way
is the
that
one to point out instead of them, which I guess that
finding
works. Hmm.
yeah, it's again it's just a weird like it works in a vacuum. That's like what happens with a lot of the changes I think to the live action thing is that like you can see it and look at it and be like this makes sense and it works in a vacuum, but then you like step back and you're
And you're
like
like, ooh,
well, you're losing a lot though,
well,
or like changing a lot that doesn't necessarily like
because
need
we
to
all
be
know the
changed.
story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I guess like, the argument can be made that like a lot of people who watch the Netflix version like won't have known the story because people are dumb and don't think animation is a viable medium, and they're wrong. But like it's just
And they're wrong.
um
That's
and so like I
that's
get that,
fact.
and so like it can work on its own,
Hmm.
but it's just so hard to look at it and be like this was a improvement because it
It
wasn't.
wasn't. It doesn't. I don't know what it improves upon in this. And honestly, I don't even know why. I get why it needs to stay in, but I don't know why this is one of those things that made it in so much to the live action. Because honestly, I
Yeah.
think that storyline is something that you can do without and you can get around. Because really, what we get
Hmm.
from Teo and the Mechanist is hot air balloon. Um,
Hmm.
Not saying that it doesn't need to be needed, but I'm saying in the live action, if they wanted to take something out, you could have taken that out and made
Yeah,
it with
and
something.
especially because like it's not like they're geographically moving to that, like they don't go to the Northern Air Temple.
Hmm.
So like it's not, you don't need, like that's the main
Yeah.
point of this episode and the animation is that
And
like
that the Fire Nation
it's,
gets the hot air balloons to.
yeah, and like it's their last trip before the Northern Water Tribe.
Mhm.
They're like geographically close to there, so like duh. But like if you're not gonna bother with that, then why did you put it in the first half slash middle of the season
Of the season, yeah.
in Omashu? Like, what are we
And
doing
the
here?
and the people flying, like, is it gonna come back? I guess because it does come back in the animation. It makes sense. They're great side characters,
Yeah.
and they add depth, and they do provide a lot later. Like I know the Mechanist provides a lot of great inventions that do help them win the war, and he
Hmm.
also
Like
like encourages
he's a
Sokka, and
he's a super crucial character, and so it's good to have him in there. But it would have been better to have him at the Northern Air Temple
and the
where
Northern
the
Temple, where
episode
it
is
makes
named.
sense.
Like
Yeah,
it's just, I still, yeah, you
and we
just
don't get
lose.
the industrialization kind of theme, and
Exactly.
that
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like that's the main thing that you
theme of
lose
like,
because like
yeah,
that's the
ruining
main.
ancient relics and
Yeah, that's like aside from
pollution.
the like nuanced conflict of like supplying arms to the enemy, like that's the other
Hmm.
like main theme of the episode is the like
Hmm.
industrialization and the like technology taking over the land and like
And
ruining
like,
what's
is
come
it like, where's
before.
the line? What's
Yeah,
like,
like
it is like, there's pros and cons to it. There's
mhm.
like, do you
Like
really
what's
just leave it here and not use it at all? Or do you use these spaces now to feel like, what is the line? Like,
like what, yeah, when is
between
it
destroying and
beneficial and
honoring.
when is it,
And
yeah, like when's it beneficial to
hmm.
make these changes and advancements, and like when is it harmful, like where does
Hmm.
progress not become like good progress and just like
Hmm.
change for the sake of change and then destructive, and like there's no hint of any sort of thought or
Any
nuance
of
like that in
thought
live
at
action.
all. Yeah.
It's
And
not
that's
like
a
that's
big
just,
theme that does come back throughout the entire Avatar universe. Like, it
yeah,
comes back a lot in Korra, and
yeah, I mean it becomes a
we see that
huge
it,
thing in
yeah.
Korra because of like the
Hmm.
technological leaps that they make
Hmm.
like in that show, and so taking that theme out is like you lose a big part of what makes the show the show.
So
So
yeah, so it's like, once again, it's not
you
even
like,
fine. It's not even
you
fine
like
this
you
time.
missed the plot, like you took like it's we
It was
I know
right there, and you just
we've talked about this
you
with
went
other
around it.
live action segments where they're like, oh well, we got the on paper bit like broad strokes that we needed to do, like this character's
Yeah,
here and this character's here because the characters need to be there because like they'll do X, Y, and Z later on, but they miss any of the nuance that, I don't want to
that
say
makes it
any because they do
good.
bring half of the nuance from them with the like, hey, he's supplying stuff for the Fire Nation, like they keep that part of it, but like
Hmm.
the other big nuanced thing with his character that they explore is not there, and so
And it's
it's
good because there's the small things. I think I called it, what did I say? I was like, it's a big juicy steak or something. Because,
yes.
but it's like, the steak is really good because you have all these seasonings on it and it's cooked
Yeah.
right. And there's a side of green beans and mashed potatoes. And I'm hungry right now thinking about this. Oh my God.
Yeah,
But it's like,
sounds great.
they missed all that. They're like, this is just the meat. It's uncooked, but it's meat. And you're like,
It's there. It's there though.
yeah, but like, I get it, but it's, you didn't season it like at all. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell are you doing?
Where's this season? All I can hear is Gordon Ramsay yelling. I've been watching so much MasterChef lately. It's just like there's no salt. Like
What's the thing where he's like, it's something with Nemo, and he's like, okay, can hear the fish yelling or something.
Just the way that he describes things being like undercooked, and he's like,
Undercooked, yeah.
he's like, it's close to mooing, like it's so
It's close to mooing. Like, this
uh,
fish is so undercooked, he's still asking where his son is. Like, oh my God.
love Gordon Ramsay, but yeah, no, it's
Love.
just like it's completely missing it. It's
It's
missing the
missing,
point.
yeah. It missed what
Like
made it good.
they got
So once
it.
again, that's our final point on the live action. It missed the main point of why we like the show.
You lost the plot, but
You lost the
whatever.
plot.
So yeah, those are our live action thoughts on this episode making it. Whenever we come back, we'll be going through the Mechanist's amazing inventions, which is going to be fun.
Yay.
So we'll be right back.
Hi, my name is Negan.
And I'm Bree. Enjoying this show on the Aspect Network?
Then check out Viltrumics, an Invincible podcast.
Each week, we go back and discuss your favorite episodes of the series and review new episodes as they release right on Amazon Prime.
Join us as we travel space, time, and the multiverse with Mark Grayson and discuss one of the most exciting superhero series on TV on Viltrumics, here on the Aspect Network.
And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Bending the Narrative. This week, we were introduced to the Mechanist. Throughout the series, he has a slew of exciting inventions, and today we wanted to highlight some of our favorites. Kate, let's start with you. What are some of your favorite Mechanist inventions?
There's a really funny one in here, and it's called peanut sauce bombs. And I like it. It says it was a failed experiment. It doesn't explain what they are, but I'm assuming it's peanut sauce bomb.
It was supposed to
obviously
explode.
It's the name, but
Yeah.
it was supposed to explode peanut sauce everywhere.
I love the idea that it was failed. Like, how do you fit? Like, it just didn't
Fail?
explode, I guess, because that's the only way I could think of like a explosive device not.
Or like, was it for
Feeding.
food? Was it for seasoning food? Was it like a little thing like in food?
Well, it says it's an experimental
it's explosive
device. Yeah, so like, because I mean, it can't have failed if it exploded too much.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's kind of like.
Or was it like
just
the peanut sauce was sticky or something? Like, would it get everywhere? Like, was it not really, like, did it not just do anything? It just made people smell like peanuts?
That'd be funny.
That'd be funny.
It
I
just
wonder.
like exploded and it's like tarring them
cute.
essentially.
Yeah. Yes. Anyways, what was one of your favorites?
So I mean, it's kind of a generic one, but like the gliders, gliders are always cool. The fact that he makes a glider for Teo, for like a wheelchair glider, is
so
crazy
sweet.
cool. Like they can just like attach to his wheelchair and works perfectly well. Is super cool. He also ends up making Aang's replacement glider eventually.
Oh, I actually didn't know
Which is
that.
cool.
You're right. Yeah.
So spoiler alert for like, I don't even remember when that happens, but later on.
Is that in the last season?
I want to say that's book 3 when he needs it.
Yeah, that feels right.
But yeah, so I mean, like gliders are sick. Like that's just you get the fly.
Cool. And I mean, he is inspired by the original ones. Like he does say in the Northern Air Temple, he saw that there were
the gliders
left over,
and he was like,
I wonder where those went. I wonder if he used those.
Probably used like parts of them, I would imagine, to like make the new ones.
Interesting.
But yeah, I mean, those are cool.
Yeah. There's another one here. I didn't realize that he made this. It says he made the Fire Nation drill. The giant drill that goes into the wall of Ba Sing Se.
Oh, yeah.
It says that he made that. This guy sucks.
That's impressive, though. I mean, like, he just said, hey, I'm going to make a huge drill, essentially.
He's like, here's an idea for you.
Basically,
it's like Avatar level.
Like we literally have
crazy.
We have fights that take place inside that drill.
Inside of it. Yeah, it's huge. It's humongous. Because I mean, it's got to breach through the wall.
Yeah, that's wild, honestly.
Yeah.
He also made the earthbending powered tank. So there's vehicles owned and operated by the Earth Kingdom military. They're used during the Day of the Black Sun. Bro was making tanks.
Oh, Bro's making tanks.
Actual
but I like
tanks.
that they're it's like rock ones, right? That the earthbending.
Yeah, so they're earthbending powered, which is, it's so like, honestly, it's so cool thinking about, and this comes in it makes sense with how the world operates, but like the fact that he's making inventions to do with the different bending powers, like he's like all because like it only works in concert with earthbending,
The
right? And so
certain
it's like,
people I'm like making this
yeah,
for.
which like it's cool to think about like him thinking about inventions into that way as opposed to just a general like, I don't know, like the time
That
candle
everybody
thing.
can use. Yeah.
Yeah, like the time candle thing is not like
Time
bending
candle.
dependent. That's such a dumb one. I can't like. I'm sorry.
I'm so mad about it.
It's so not
Doesn't
useful.
make
You have
sense.
it's an alarm clock. Like not that that's not
It's
useful,
an
but like
alarm clock
but it's not a
that
like
goes
it's
off
not
every hour.
it's not an actual clock. Like you can't just look at it and see the time. You have to wait for the
It's
audio
4:00
cue.
candle.
It's for a candle. Like it's
4:00
not.
candle.
Sokka had such a good point. He's like, how can you tell what time it is? And then it just like, of course, goes off right then. But like, that's not useful. Like, it's not.
Like that was just a coincidence.
It's very situationally useful, but like, it's not a clock, man. Like, come on, get out of here.
No, that's fair. That's fair. That I think that's one of his only ones though that
Is not super useful.
there's like very few ones I think that he has that aren't useful. He literally invents the elevator. I think that's pretty sick.
Yeah, I mean,
That's compressed
yeah,
air elevator.
elevators are pretty cool. I'll give them that. We see that one in
Elevators
this
are pretty
episode.
cool.
Like he literally when they're in the bit inside the main room. I don't know what to call it. The main
Yeah, the main
thing
room in
of
the
the
temple. The
Yeah,
first one
like,
that Aang sees.
yeah, we're like we then see a person like hop in the elevator and use it to like right up to the top or whatever. The shot is definitely just to show off like the image and like that's cool. Elevators are super useful. Good on him. Like,
Good on him. Thanks for the elevators.
yeah.
There's that. Oh, he invents the eclipse glasses too.
Which
The
those
little
were
ones with the
useful
slits.
a couple weeks ago for
A couple weeks ago.
Everyone needs your eclipse glasses.
Yep. If you're in that
so,
certain
I mean,
area.
yeah, it was actually like it was crazy good where I'm at, but it was
Oh, you were right in the path. I was a little bit below it.
We had like 4 million people like travel here.
What?
Like there was like an estimated like 4 million more people in the DFW area for that. I was
Whoa.
like, why are all these people here? Like we literally had like
my
warnings that
God.
were like, make sure you like get gas and stuff like days before because like everything's gonna run out and stuff. And I was like, can all these people go away, please? Like,
Can I not come here?
like, come
Jesus.
on.
I know a lot of people, because I'm more on, for listeners, I'm more on the New York side. I'm closer to there. People went up to Canada to go see it, or they were like, they took a trip to Montreal, and I was like, or upstate New York. People
Trip to
went.
Montreal.
I know, right? To see an eclipse.
That's
But it was
so
cool because I
funny.
love it. During the eclipse, everybody's like, guys, your firebending will stop working. Everybody watch out. Great day to invade.
Yeah, I do like this is a point for there's more for like the main section of the episode, but I like how this episode showcases that like the only time the Fire Nation would have successfully been able to take over an air temple is like using the eclipse or like Sozin's comment to like bolster their powers because like they couldn't even take the air temple over from people who weren't airbenders. Like,
Who weren't airbenders. Yeah. Like
Like-
it's so hard to get up there. And
yeah.
like they literally have the high ground. They I know. We all thought that. We all thought that.
Oh man.
Anyways, more of his inventions. It says here he made too an ice torpedo, which is a
next one. Yeah,
water-
that's crazy.
That's crazy. When is that used in the show?
For use in the invasion of the Fire Nation.
What?
Which is that's wild. I don't think we ever see that one. Maybe we do.
I don't remember seeing that. Do they?
It does blow up the dam. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, right. Yeah.
That's
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Yeah.
And then they also have
That's so
water
cool.
bending powered submarines, so naval vehicles used
What?
in the invasion of the Fire Nation. So like, bro invented submarines. Good on
Bro
him.
invented elevators, submarines, clocks.
Dude is just
technically.
like an actual genius. Clocks, technically. No.
No, he's so mad.
I refuse to
Timing
acknowledge
devices,
that one.
timing devices.
Yeah, I'll give him that one. He invented timing devices. He can have that. But like,
Because they
clocks,
use the
no.
timing devices during the eclipse to keep track of how much time they have.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
on the
So that's
Tundra
fine.
tank.
Tundra tank.
Tun-
Bro made
Tundra tank.
tanks, submarines, giant drills.
Bro is Lockheed Martin.
Single-handedly.
Single-handedly.
Used the Earth Kingdom supply truck. So these are motorized metallic vehicles supposedly designed by Sokka in preparation for the
Oh.
invasion. They were used as a means of cargo
Ah.
transportation for earthbending ammo.
right. Oh,
The fact
because
that these
to
are
keep resupplying them during that. That's right.
mhm. The fact that these are described as motorized is super interesting. Motorized how?
Oh,
Is my
wait.
question.
Wait,
What are
because
they
cars
motor
don't come until Korra.
Cora? Yeah, like what are they
Maybe
motorized
it's
by?
with earth bending, they like move cogs because they don't have electricity yet, so they don't know that they can do that.
Yeah, which
Maybe they do
also
it
crazy
manually,
thing, the fact that they just have like that's someone's job just to be like an like
turning the
electricity
cogs, I guess.
electricity person. That's wild. We'll get to that eventually.
We'll get to
First
that
episode of
eventually. Yeah,
first
that's
episode
a
of
cool
Korra.
job. That's Korra.
That's not a cool job. That's just intense manual labor all day.
That is that like
That
he's
is
the
that is
children
borderline
yearn for the
slavery.
mines. The children yearn for the mines.
Um,
He also he makes what is it? He has like a failed knife sharpener, but he loses
mhm.
3 fingers
Yeah,
before he gets it right.
we never saw that. It's like he just talks about it. It's a finger safe knife sharpener that took 3 tries to get, and so
And
like
so he
he
has
shows off.
3 fake wooden fingers.
Yeah, which lends into his the other invention listed that he like has prosthetic fingers, 3
Which is
removable wooden
crazy.
fingers made to replace the ones that he lost while making his finger safe knife sharpener, which we don't see. But I'm very
Yeah,
interested to see what that would possibly look like. But
in that
that's
time
more of
period,
just
in that
that's more of
world.
just a bit, like where he's like,
Yeah.
oh, like, hey, look at what I did.
Yeah.
I make a bunch of stuff, and also look at these prosthetic fingers. Like, well,
It's great.
the show had a lot of disability rep. Like we got Tail in a
Really, it
wheelchair.
really
We have
does.
we have prosthetic fingers. Like
We also
he's
have
doing
the
it.
later on we have obviously Toph and then
Hmm.
Combustion Man. He's technically people say he's technically oh, I hit my mic, sorry. He's technically
Happens.
part of that. It happens to the best of
What
us,
is
you know.
Combustion Man's deal? He just has a third eye, or not eye, but like a.
Or like I guess he just has a special ability.
Mm.
He
But
is,
I mean, yeah. What else is he made?
or
Slime
or
bombs?
he has a like a prosthetic, I think. Combustion Man.
Oh, right. Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
Doesn't he? What is it? Yeah, it's his like hand or arm or something.
Hmm.
Doesn't he have a metal arm? Am I going
I'm
crazy,
pretty
guys?
no. I
No,
think
he
you're
has a
right.
metal
Yeah,
arm.
he has a metal arm.
I love a metal arm. It's so good.
All right, Winter
Classic.
Soldier vibes.
Right, it is. That's why I love the Winter Soldier.
You should have a thing for metal arms. It's fine.
I do.
So Mechanist also made the slime bombs, which were thrown from the hot air balloons.
I
and
do
dropped
love, yeah.
from the chair gliders. They
Mhm.
exude large amounts of sticky, slippery green substance that can immobilize entire tanks. So
I wonder if
bro
that's a
just-
Nickelodeon thing.
that has to be slime, as opposed
Yeah,
to like
I wonder
tar.
if they were like put slime in there as opposed to tar. Yeah,
Well, I mean, because that's essentially what it is. It's just green tar. Like,
yeah.
where'd
I
they
guess
get
that-
this slime?
Where did they? Yeah, how did they get it
The
green?
Nickelodeon vault is where they got it.
Yeah, I feel like they were like, because we're Nickelodeon, let's put green slime in there. Like kids love that. Why was that a
Yeah.
big thing? That's off topic, but
So I think the only other major one, well,
it was
there's
like
the stink
smoke bombs.
Yeah, stink bombs, smoke bombs.
Smoke bombs.
Those are pretty self-explanatory. And then, of course,
Mhm.
the hot air balloon that he devises, which is, a huge thing. That's great. This dude invented so many major things: hot air balloons, tanks, submarines, cargo vehicles.
Like he single-handedly advanced the entire society.
This
of
dude is the
this,
military
like this
industrial
world.
complex.
Yes, military industrial complex personified.
Yeah, that's him.
Hey, but he has a mind on him. Okay, he's what is it? He's like he becomes good at the end.
Yeah,
That's
except
that's
for all
the
the
difference.
weapons of mass destruction.
That it ends up saving everybody
Yeah, in the long run. Until
in the long
someone
run.
builds a bigger
And-
war.
Till somebody builds a bigger one. But because the Fire
but
Nation
yeah.
does have a lot of crazy advancements, but he's right there next to them.
Yeah.
Or
fact
all
that
the
it's just him.
advancements because of him. Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. I wonder. Well, I mean, I guess they're not listed here, so I guess their ships and stuff are not his doing.
He's like the Tony
they're
Stark of
listed.
that.
Tony
He
Stark
probably would have, if they
Just
let
say-
him keep going, he would have made an Iron Man suit.
built this in a cave. With
Cave
scraps.
with scraps.
Man, this segment, is
This
just
bit
all
could
of the
go
pop
on.
culture references we've been able to pack in.
It's so good.
So yeah, that's the list. I think we went through them all.
That's our Mechanist, guys.
He did a lot. Good for him.
He did
It's
a
like
lot. Good for him.
20 invention. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That's a
5,
lot. Count them. How many?
It is 20, unless I don't
20.
have it.
Way! That was good.
Okay, well, we both got it, so can
So,
count,
yeah.
confirmed. But yeah,
So
good
in
stuff,
summary,
fun stuff.
good stuff. We love the Mechanist. Anything else you want to say about the Mechanist or the episode as a whole?
I don't think so. I think we hit the main points.
Yeah. Anything anybody else wants to say about it, leave a comment. Let us know.
Mhm.
But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in to Bending the Narrative this week. Next week, we finally arrive at the Northern Water Tribe with the episode The Waterbending Master. But before that, Alex, where can people find you online?
You can find me online at AP Batman with 2 T's.
All right. And you can find me online at Kate the Official on Instagram. And please be sure to subscribe here to The Aspect on YouTube and any platform where podcasts are found. Please give us a like, leave a comment, turn on that bell for notifications, and you can also follow us on Twitter/X, Instagram, and TikTok at The Aspect Co. Thank you so much for listening, guys, and Flamio Hotman.